You are now.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Quiett Mom Talks. I'm Robin,
I'm Zoe.
and tonight we are going to talk about being overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Everybody gets overwhelmed every now and then for lots of reasons, many times for good reasons, many times because we're overworking or overthinking or overdoing things. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it means. Tonight, if you've listened to us before, you know that we are not professional podcasters.
Nope.
Well, we are very
Experienced.
semi-professional, but we are not
Jeez.
we are not professional. And recently we've decided to start recording live because
It's easier.
mostly because we don't like to edit. It takes a lot of work and time, and we don't have a lot of time. It gets us overwhelmed.
Too many things going on.
Yeah. So what we wanted to talk about tonight is last week we talked about self-care.
And before that, we talked about mental
We
health.
talked about mental health. So we're kind of on a theme.
We are kind of on a
It's
theme.
to
Being
take over
overwhelmed is like a very good reason to practice self-care or to focus on your mental health. So it kind of ties into everything we've been talking about. And I feel like everyone can kind of relate. Like, there's so many different sayings about how life just keeps on going or nothing ever stops or there's always something else or whatever else. But it's something that most people don't really understand completely, I don't think.
Right. Well, and we get overwhelmed. Like, what does it mean to be overwhelmed? When we get overwhelmed, we feel like that we can't handle our situation, which sometimes it's because we just have a lot going on. Sometimes we do it, it's self-inflicted.
Sometimes it's just because there's too much. Like, there's too much going on. There's too much that you're feeling. There's too much stimulation. That's a lot of the times what I relate being overwhelmed with is having too much to deal with, whatever too much it is.
Maybe it's just like too much noise, too
Yeah.
much. Like there's just, and sometimes that can be like a proverbial noise of things that are happening in your life. Because you just have a lot of different irons in the fire. But sometimes it can be that there's just physically too much noise. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been in a room full of preschoolers or
If you've ever had to teach a room full of preschoolers
or at doing a dance team practice while the basketball team is practicing on the other end of the gym, that's how there's too much stimulation. There's a lot of stuff going on. But most of us can relate to overwhelm. Think about like the holiday season, like in Christmas time, when you're all excited and it's great and wonderful and you're really excited to watch your 5-year-old open the presents, but it's like Christmas Eve and you haven't started wrapping yet and you have to like, those are the things I think everybody can kind of relate to those.
When you have like a giant never ending to-do list, that's like what the feeling of being overwhelmed is. And sometimes, like, for different people, your feeling of overwhelmed comes at different times.
Yeah.
Some people, it might take like 5 things on their to-do list and then they're overwhelmed because normally they only have 1 or 2. Other people are used to having 5 things on their to-do list, but if you put 10 or 12 on there, then they get overwhelmed.
Or if you put deadlines. It's like, okay, I have all these things that I want to do.
But then sometimes people need the deadline. Like,
Most people need deadlines. I feel like most people
Yeah.
need deadlines.
if I don't have a deadline, I'm just not going to do
It's not
it.
getting done. That's how, like, I have had on my to-do list to make my students, I have a few students that have not been coming to school. And I'm like, I need to make them a schedule because I need a schedule to start
Yeah.
second term. Well, second term starts on next Friday. And I'm like, I keep putting it off. Like, I was going to do it Friday after school, but then I had my hair appointment. We changed my hair appointment.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stay late Friday after school. And then I was going to do it Monday before school, which was today. And I didn't do it. I thought about going in on the weekend. Like, there's just all these times. And I'm like, well, I at least have until next Friday. That is really the deadline. I'm sure there is like some like deadline that was put into
Probably some fine print in there
from my
somewhere.
principal or the admin staff telling me that I need to have it done by a certain time. But
Please, Mom.
also, our students do their own
Teacher of the year right here.
Yeah,
But it's only because you have the student of the year.
I do. I have amazing students. But it's just one of those things. Like, if you don't have having deadlines that are too upcoming, like too fast, like not having enough time when your deadlines are really crunched can cause overwhelm, or not having deadlines, surprisingly enough, can also cause overwhelming because it's just these.
When am I supposed to do it? Do I need to do it before this or after this? Which one's more important? I don't know. This one has a deadline, this one doesn't, but this seems like it's more important. I got it first. What if it's supposed to be done after? What if they really actually want it tomorrow, but they just didn't give me a deadline for it and I'm waiting to do it till next week on Friday, but they want it tomorrow and today's only Tuesday?
Yes. So
That's just how that thought spiral can go, depending on like what you're thinking of and when things happen.
exactly.
Compared to, here, can you do this by next Thursday? Okay, sure.
Wednesday
And
night.
then you have that thought process in your head. Okay, I have another week. I don't really need to start it for the next 5 or 6 days. But if we get to Wednesday and I haven't started, that's the only thing on my priority list, right? You know, it's easier to make that priority when you know it has to be done tomorrow.
Right. A lot of us sort of function that way, partly because of our brain chemistry. I think
Because
that
then your
has-
brain can prepare for what you had coming.
And I think that has something to do with like dopamine releases and chemical things going on in your brain. However, it's also just a thing. Like we're human and we're busy and we're already overwhelmed. And so we just tend to
It's easier to have the schedule, like I'm sure.
Yeah.
That goes for more than just like deadlines. It's also like if you have routines we talked about last time or just having things on a schedule. Most people keep a calendar, whether it's a paper calendar or a notebook or whatever it is. You have it somewhere physically that is a schedule. And it tells you what you're going to do on different days, at what times and things like that. Because that's important. Like you have to know when you're going to go to the doctor. Like you have a yearly checkup. You don't just automatically remember that. We aren't superhumans.
Here is the PSA of the day. If you do not have a calendar,
Get one.
you need to get one and start
There's
writing
one-
things down.
There's
Google
one built
Calendar.
into your phone.
There's stuff on your phone. There's
There's
Google,
free ones.
there's free stuff. You don't need to buy something expensive, but just get a calendar that will help with overwhelm.
Yeah.
But how does it feel to be overwhelmed? Like we've kind of talked
Yeah.
about what it is. We've mentioned what it feels, but like it can feel heavy.
Yeah.
It can
feel like you can't stop. It can feel like you have all of this energy because you have all of these things that you have to get done or that you need to do or you want to do, or you're just feeling all of these emotions and you feel like you have to keep moving or keep doing things or keep yourself busy or else it's all just going to like explode.
So sometimes feeling overwhelmed, or sometimes the way we get overwhelmed is to avoid feeling.
Okay.
Because sometimes the overwhelm, it might not be caused by all of the things on your to-do list.
Right.
It might be caused by something like overlying, like maybe you're not dealing with a childhood trauma. Maybe you're not dealing with, you had a fight with your best friend. Or
Maybe you have a specific trigger that keeps coming up in your life and you're not aware of it and you need to focus on it more.
Right. Or maybe you had a tragedy in your life that you have to deal with, or that you just, maybe it's not even something that you're like running away from. It's just extra weight that you're carrying.
And it could be completely unrelated to whatever's going on in the moment. Like you could be brushing your teeth at night and all of a sudden you're just like, oh my gosh, everything's going crazy. Like I have to do this and this and this. Or you're standing there and you're like, ooh, the world is going to end tomorrow. Everything's going in circles. Like all of these random, stupid, pointless thoughts start coming up in your head just because your brain won't stop spinning.
Right. And that is part of anxiety. And everybody experiences anxiety at some point in life. Not everybody has clinical anxiety, just like depression. But you could have that anxiety that comes up from maybe you lost a loved one and you're dealing with that loss. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you got a new job and you're really excited and it's amazing and you have all these great opportunities. But that starts to create overwhelm because it's all these extra things and
it's new.
Sometimes just change is enough to make you feel overwhelmed. And you might be excited and happy for the change, but it's still change and it's hard. Like if you've ever had a baby, you know how amazing it is to have bring a newborn life into the world, but it can cause some overwhelm. And sometimes you feel guilty about how heavy it is. You feel guilty about how bad you're feeling because you're overwhelmed, and you want to just appreciate and enjoy the moment, but sometimes it's hard. So that brings us to the next thought. Like, what do you do about overwhelm? Like, how can you function? Like, you can function with overwhelm. You can get it into, like, one of the things that I've been practicing a lot lately is just, I have a friend that says, relax and take a deep breath. And as soon as I see that, I'm like, you're right. Okay.
We talked last week about self-care, and that's like probably top thing on my list to do when you're overwhelmed is do something for yourself, whether that's sitting down and reading a book, watching a movie, going for a walk, taking a break, going to the gym, taking a nap, literally anything that could be good for yourself, you can do to help what am I trying to say? To help calm yourself down.
And help manage that.
Yeah.
So think about when you get overwhelmed is just a form of stress, right? So you have to learn how to cope with that stress or learn how to do that. So be careful with your self-care that you don't create like one more thing on your to-do list, because sometimes that happens. But when you think about, I used to do this demo when I did presentations about stress and how do you manage self-care. But like, think about like a pitcher of water, and all of your stress is just like extra level of water. There's more water and more water and more water. When you practice self-care and you take a minute, you take a break away from whatever it is that's causing you stress, whatever that's causing you the overwhelm. Like, so maybe your to-do list is overwhelming. And you're like, I can't take self-care because how am I supposed to fit a pedicure on my schedule when I have a booked schedule? Well, what happens is you take that moment to go get your pedicure and you really enjoy that moment, and you understand and you realize that however long that pedicure is or however long that moment takes, you give yourself a break. You don't think about the overwhelming stress.
Pour out some of the water from the pitcher.
Pouring out the water so that there's room, and you have that stress level that goes from all the way to the top and it lowers down. And now you have more room and space. Because when you get overwhelmed and when you're busy and you're doing stuff, that water, if you think about it, like all of the things that you're doing and busy, because of little waves, there's some little shaking going on in that. And you need room to splash up things because it doesn't always go exactly the way it seems.
Yeah.
And you might love to be busy. I'm
like a safety net.
Yes. I'm a person who loves to be busy. So one of my coping mechanisms is just to get myself busy, which is also one of my avoidance mechanisms too. So it's like a little bit of a balance. Like you have to figure out where you're at.
You can't overdo it. Which we talked about in our episode last week about not doing too much.
You do have to balance.
And it's about mindfulness. It's about being conscious of what you're doing and very intentionally taking those breaks 100%. And taking that time for yourself and intentionally dumping out the water instead of just like stabbing at it so that it'll drain itself out.
Yeah. So that it makes a bigger mess. Now you have more things to clean up.
But you have to like actually dump it into the sink or something, or I don't even know. Analogy.
We won't talk. Like it's going to go into a glass. And somebody's going to take a glass of water and it's going to hydrate them and be healthy for them.
What, right? Repurposing.
You're repurposing stress. You're hydrating somebody else.
You're not giving somebody else stress.
Right. But in the, like, I hope you guys understand what we're saying. It is important. We just
on the podcast.
Did we
named ourselves?
Right. Did we say that today we didn't, like, we wrote a couple questions of what we wanted to talk about, but we didn't really, like, we didn't have any answers. And so we're just kind of going, this is how we have conversations and communication.
This is what it sounds like when we talk about random stuff on our walk.
This is where
inspired us to start our podcast.
Now we're actually doing exactly what we inspired.
Yeah.
But so
we probably should still go through this one and edit it just a little bit.
No, we're not. We're not. Because we've already said we're alive. So we're gonna go back to overwhelm. We were trying not to go on squirrel trails. So there was our first one. What to do about it, which is what to do about it. We've talked about what to do about it. So self-care. The one thing that I have really been using a lot and I think has really helped me, because I've had a lot of overwhelmed moments lately and I want to melt down, and I've actually melt down.
Me too.
And for whatever reason, I have like friends that will reach out, like the universe knows what's going on. Like that's the moment when I'm like, hey, I get like hey, Robin, how are you doing? Just wanted to check in on you. And I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. And Jamie just ran away and I can't do this and I have to leave. And you would like get her bone. such a weirdo. But, and then I get that when, okay, it's time for you to like slow down. Everything's gonna be okay. Dinner. Take a deep breath. Relax. Have you eaten today? What are you gonna take? When are you gonna eat? Like, you have this stuff going on today. When are you gonna eat? Have you asked for help? Who can help you with this? Or let me offer help. Yeah. So it is important. Nutrition, sleep, exercise are all really, really important things in your life that can really they can be a game changer.
And don't do it because you feel like you have to.
Right.
Don't eat a salad because
overwhelming.
you want to be healthy. Don't put too much stress. I have started seeing a nutritionist lately, and the biggest thing that we're focusing on is making it easy for me because of, one, all of the symptoms that I have, and because then you're actually going to do it.
Yeah.
And two, focusing on things that I like and things that make me happy and food that I enjoy, because I had a very bad relationship with food for a while because I wasn't enjoying it. I felt like it was a chore. So just doing something or eating something, drinking something that you like that's going to make you happy. If you're used to love getting little frappuccinos at Starbucks when you were a kid, but you haven't had one in years because you're like, oh, that's just a little kid's drink. Go get the freaking frappuccino. I always get my boyfriend frappuccinos at Starbucks because they're freaking amazing. And I always take a couple drinks of it before I bring it home to him because I never get myself frappuccinos. And because I don't really.
I always take the crema. That's why. But I had my drink of choice when I was like your age used to be like caramel mocha frappuccinos. So every once in a while when we go out for coffee, I will get a caramel mocha frappuccino when I'm trying to like spoil myself or whatever. But I always I tend to judge myself like, oh, that's too many calories, it's too much sugar, it doesn't fit into my little diet plan. But every now and then it's good. Like that can be a form of self-care, and that can really help your overwhelm. Take that sip of your frappuccino, take a deep breath, and
ice cream.
Give yourself some grace. I think that
you say that, I think, in every single episode, at least one.
I think
that's like that's our version of, well, that's not a good sign from Star Wars.
Oh, it's not. Is that the right line?
No, it's not. I've got a bad feeling about that.
I've got a bad feeling. Is that the right line?
It is.
Where's our Star Wars expert? I'm not a Star Wars expert. Somebody asked me the other day, are you a Star Wars fan? I'm like, all of my cars are named by Star Wars names.
I was sending a Star Wars reel to Theron the other day. And
I was due to poor connection.
He was like, is your whole Instagram feed just Star Wars reels? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. It's pretty funny. So he's like, you like Star Wars? That's so cool. I'm like, kind of. My family likes it. I like Star Wars.
I like Star Wars. I just bonding time.
I watched Star Wars yesterday. Yeah. Literally, like back night.
Overwhelmed.
Yes.
Maybe a movie
when you're overwhelmed,
really great time.
You get like super sidetracked all the time because there's too much going on up here.
Well, and I don't know if you practice this. Like we tend to scroll on our phones when we're like, that's a coping mechanism. Usually not a very healthy coping mechanism. Unless you are intentional with it, where you go, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to shut out the world, and I'm going to scroll. Like my friend and I
doom scroll.
We not doom scrolling, but we said, like, I text her, I'm like, what are you up to? And she's like, I'm just scrolling on my phone. These are usually like the 10 o'clock at night text messages between me and one of my best friends. And she's like, I'm just scrolling. And I'm like, oh, you are? And then like we start I send more reels than you.
So many reels.
I send a lot to Zoe. Most of the time they go to Zoe.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I send them to my friends, and I send but most of my friends get them like days later, and then they may respond. I get like the like. They don't send me a reels back. I'm the person. But what was my point? When you're scrolling, like if you can take that time and like, I don't know. We're going to talk about taking time for yourself. I was going to say movie night. Instead of sitting down scrolling, because you tend to go into doom scrolling, and then you go off on these squirrel trails, like your best friend that you haven't talked to in forever, and you didn't get invited to a party, and then you're like, what? They all went out to,
and then you're scrolling through together, and then you're seeing all the dogs,
you see all and you go in different directions, but it's like you start going, what? They did this without me. I did that. like all the things. So instead of
The
doing
bad
that,
side of social media.
choose either choose to go on positive routes on your scrolling or do something more intentional. Pick out your favorite movie. What's your favorite show? Do something that makes you laugh.
And
When
a lot of people think, like, if you're having a movie night or something like that, you have to watch, like, a new movie.
you don't,
You don't.
you
If
can
you
rewatch.
have, like, a comfort movie or, like, I literally watch the same probably 4 or 5 shows over and over and over, and then I finish it, and I'm like,
Start over.
I don't know what to watch now, so I'll start a different show that I really like over again because it's comfortable, and it's hard to watch things because it's hard to get into things.
And you have to pay attention.
Yeah, and you have to pay attention. You might be, like, completely disappointed by the answer or by the outcome of the whatever happened. So it's just easier to just do the same thing over and over again and still completely fine. Like, you're still having a movie night. You still watched a movie at night.
I did the other night. My TV's not working because I messed it. But I have I listened to my favorite movie's soundtrack, which I'm gonna say it was not the same. It did not have the same effects. But I still listen to the soundtrack. Rock of Ages.
Oh.
Rock of Ages is my favorite movie. The soundtrack does not hit the same way as the actual movie does. Because you're listening to these amazing songs, which they did really well in the movie. But I'm like, I love Tom Cruise. But, pause again. But I don't want to hear him singing the songs that I really like. Like, I love the songs. I love it in the movie. But I'm like, this kind of is, I'm like, can I get the Rock of Ages soundtrack by the original artist singing the song?
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I just need to watch the movie. I need to figure out my TV situation, which was supposed to happen tonight, but that obviously didn't happen.
Those little buttholes.
I'm not impressed with
Really not
Verizon
impressed
people
with
right
me
now.
either.
Okay. Okay.
So the last thing
positive-
we can add, yeah.
Let's see here. It can be a positive overwhelm. It can be negative overwhelm.
You can be, like, overwhelmed because you're so happy and you have all of these emotions, and it's like,
Oh, somebody give us a thumbs up.
I'm pretty sure that was you doing a thumbs up.
Oh,
I don't know.
did somebody give us a thumbs up or was that?
I don't know. Whatever.
Thumbs up dance.
Okay, but
Whatever that means. I don't know.
somebody liked us. That's what the thumbs up means.
I can't put me up on the screen.
You can be, like, super happy and be overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not used, I'm pretty sure there's nobody in the world who's used to being super happy all the time. So if you get some, like, amazing news and you're overwhelmed by it, you see people jumping with joy. They are overwhelmed.
That's overwhelmed.
They're jumping with joy.
That's when they're crying tears of joy.
Exactly.
That's okay.
If you're, like, a little kid running around screaming because they just got told they get to go have ice cream, they are overwhelmed. Well, I mean, like, that's kind of valid, but still.
But sometimes that positive energy that's causing the overwhelm, it's not just that's causing the overwhelm. Then you add what comes next. You have this great experience about, okay, I've got this opportunity that I'm going to go, like, I'm traveling for football stuff and I'm all these great opportunities. But then it's like, oh, what am I going to do? I have to get a sub. I have to write sub plan. I have to get a flight. Now there's something else that's happening the day before I leave. So I have to figure out how I'm going to manage that. And the flight, like all of the things that then they start adding up and then you start getting overwhelmed.
And then you spiral.
Overwhelmed happiness goes into this overwhelm, like, oh crap, what am I going to do?
And then a lot of the times that happens too, especially in the adult world, because we have, like, the overwhelmed of, like, oh my gosh, this cool, crazy thing just happened. But then because we're adults and we are responsible human beings, we have all of this logical list of things that have to be done for this amazing, happy, good thing to happen. Like, just because I'm planning a trip to Disneyland this summer, which I'm doing a terrible job of planning it. I haven't done literally anything for it.
Have you contacted Natalie?
No.
Okay.
But,
Sure, though. That'll help.
what was I saying? Oh, I haven't done anything to plan it. But it's this super great thing that we're going to be doing. But I am, like, not excited for it anymore because I have to go through and plan everything, which there's nothing wrong with, because at the end of it, I'm going to be excited about the fact that we're going to freaking Disneyland.
Right.
It doesn't matter that I'm going to have to plan it all.
Right.
But it's the combination of the positive
And
and the negative
well,
overwhelmed.
and let's
And then
caution.
okay, sorry. And then you end up in this middle ground where you're not excited about it and you're not
And then
overwhelmed about it anymore.
but then you're judging
And
yourself because you're not excited anymore.
you're judging yourself because you're not excited, and then you're, like, irritated that you're not excited, and then you're just in this middle ground, and a lot of times when I end up there, I just get, like, numb about the whole situation, and I'm like, I don't really care anymore,
So
and
let me
it's super
what
frustrating
I
too.
wanna say, and if you hear nothing else except for this sentence that I wanna say is don't let when it comes to being like that positive, happy overwhelm, do not let anything how am I gonna say this to make it sound it doesn't need to sound logical. Don't let it steal your joy.
Yeah.
Like, remember
You can still
why
be
you're
happy.
doing those things. You're
Yeah.
doing the Disneyland trip and you're going through the motions, all the planning and all the bullshit that you have to do because you want
get to go
this
to
exciting
Disneyland.
thing to happen. And that is what you have to stay focused on. You cannot let it steal your joy.
It's like the
Because
reason that you try so hard in school is because you wanna get a good grade. The reason that
I laugh because,
you have kids that don't try so hard at school.
yeah, that's not a thing in my school.
Yeah, but
But
here
they
at
show
home,
up
I don't
because
know
they
if
want
you
to
did.
graduate.
Exactly.
And
You
that is
don't
important. Some of them, it takes a little bit to.
Yeah.
I have a student who's graduating this term who drug his feet, didn't care. But he's in this moment like, oh, I'm coming because of this. And he won't say it, but he's proud of himself. And it matters. But you don't let it steal your joy.
Yeah.
There's
There's
you
no
have
reason to not be happy about it still.
I mean, you have to do the stuff. You have to go to work. You have to get everything done. You have to also, sometimes you don't have to. Your house doesn't have to be spotless. You don't
You don't have to wash your hair every day.
No.
You don't have to put your hair up because it's still dirty. And leave it down.
You don't have to wear the cute clothes. You don't have to walk in the heels. But you
Put an outfit
can.
together.
But you can. And don't whatever is important to you, realize and remember where you're coming from and why you did it. Like, why did you get into whatever it is in the first place? Like I was at a camp and we were talking in the locker room about why are we here in the first place? We're here because we love the game, because we wanted to be out there officiating. We are there. Remember why you're here. It's not so that you can impress somebody and get on a big stage. I mean, maybe it is, but it's why, remember
You're
that
here to enjoy life. That is why we are all here.
And that's why if you like to be busy and you like to do a lot of things, you do that because you like to do that.
Yeah.
And continue to do that. And don't let somebody tell you your problem is you're too busy. Your problem is that you don't have a reality check. F that reality
You
check.
don't have
people.
enough fun. Yes. No. Whatever.
Fun doesn't look the same to everybody.
Yeah.
Overwhelm doesn't look the same to everybody either. So let yourself have that fun and do not let the overwhelm steal your joy of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So figure out a way to make it happen. The last thing you should cut out and not do is the things that you love and the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So, remember that.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed consistently, then you want to take a step back, look at the bigger picture of your life as a whole,
Right.
and think about what you can make changes to. What can you step back from? What can you look past?
Right.
What can you wait to focus on later?
Focus on what matters to you
Yeah.
and what your values are.
Mhm.
Because whatever those are going to be the things that number one, you're going to get up for. You're going to get out of bed to do it. And number two, that's what you're going to be proud of.
Yeah.
I don't believe, maybe some people are, you're going to be proud of that your house was spotless when your kids were 5. Your kids aren't going to remember that. They might remember that.
I don't remember.
They might remember that, but they won't remember that you had a good time at Disneyland with them because you were worried about the car being too clean or whatever else. Or that's a bad analogy, but whatever. Do what's important to you and feel those feelings and emotions. Sometimes it takes time to step back and you need to be sad and you need to cry. Sometimes you need the meltdown.
Sometimes you need to go and throw things outside for a little bit.
or whatever. You need to allow yourself to have those feelings, allow yourself to be happy and joyful, and don't let the overwhelm steal your joy. Focus on the joy, focus on the good stuff, and you'll get through it, and it will be fine. And even if it doesn't last forever, it does not last forever. Get over it. Get past it.
And if it get over it, if rub some dirt on it.
Like we just said, take a step back and go, what can I do? Like, what do I need to either, like, you might not even need to change anything. You might need to stop worrying or stop caring about certain things, because what matters to you is what you need to focus on. And that's what matters. All right. We are at our 30 minutes.
I'm so tired.
Why are you tired? Are you?
I don't know. No. Well, I mean, yeah.
We were laughing at the beginning.
Dude, literally, yeah, because when I first got here, I was just like sitting there with you, just listing off literally all of the different things I'm overwhelmed with. And it was like a 20-page paragraph.
What was funny is that she's going off on this ranting, and I'm laughing, like I'm texting, laughing, because I'm like, are you feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Anyways, so sometimes just laughing at yourself or laughing at the situation can help.
Just make jokes about it.
It's good.
Laughter is
Never underestimate the power of laughter, sleep,
and
water,
and food,
eating, and exercise,
and food,
and puppy cuddle.
And grilled cheese, mac and cheese, Mom. I mean, mac and cheese, grilled cheese.
Oh, I have to make a grilled cheese menu tonight.
Yeah.
Okay,
mac and cheese.
We probably should.
And
we're gonna say goodbye now.
If you listen, you're still
here
the whole thing, then
you.
Amazing. That's great. We love you.
Remember to like, share, download our podcast.
Oh, we love
like
those
messages that we reached 100 a couple weeks ago. So
that was pretty cool.
All right. Instagram is @knockasons. And this is about Matt. All right, we'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Listen to us where you get all of your podcasts, and share us with people that you like if you like us. Have a good night.
Oh, I just figured